Welcome back to What's Going On. I'm your host, Nico. Let's get right back into it.
Welcome to What's Going On. I'm your host, JV and Harrell.
And I'm Rory George, and we're your hosts for today's show.
Here on What's Going On is where we come together and discuss issues that are most important to us teens.
Today's episode will most definitely be one for the books.
Topic! The politician, the actor, the man. I
Yeah.
know, that wasn't it. It was the politician, the actor.
The actor, the man.
Oh, I did it?
Yes.
Okay. I thought I messed
Y'all
up.
didn't say yes.
When
I
they
thought I
say
messed
my
up.
name, you gotta clap. For
I didn't like the way y'all
It's
looked
your
at me. It was
name,
bad.
too.
Okay.
Y'all was surprised that you got it right. First try.
Wait, hi.
Come on.
Oh. Welcome to What's Going On. I'm your host, JV and Harrell.
And I'm Rory George, and we're your hosts for today's show.
Here on What's Going On is where we come together and discuss issues that are most important to us teens.
Today's episode will most definitely be one for the books.
Topic! The politician, the actor, the man, Oliver Thomas.
Guest, Councilman Oliver Thomas.
All right, I'll open up the first question. How do you navigate success as a politician, an actor, and the man?
I mean, that's a great question, and no one has ever asked me that, but there's an answer to it. I've interviewed Nightline, CNN, all the major networks, and that's the first time I ever got that starting question. I navigated based on the conversation that I had with my mother and father when I first got in politics. The first time I got elected in 1994, I was by my parents' house. And my mom and dad asked me to come in the kitchen and talk to them. And they said, well, son, you know, you seem like you turned out to be something, right? And they were celebrating that, but they sat me down at the kitchen table. And my mom and dad, and my dad was doing the talking. My mom was there with him. And my father said, there's just one thing we want you to do. And then I said, well, what's that? He said, never forget where you come from. It had nothing to do with the power. It had nothing to do with the influence. It had nothing to do with the success. And then my mother, this is the anniversary of my mom's death a few days ago, so I'm kind of full thinking about that, right? And then my mom said something. She said, if you never forget where you come from, then that means we did our right, we did our job. So that's how I balance it. I use that statement, and I use that edict from them, is if I never forget where I come from, then I'm good.
So, Mr. Oliver Thomas, I heard you were running for mayor. What are some changes that you would bring to New Orleans?
Well, let me say that final decision hasn't been made. That's going to be a decision with the community, even with people like Anthony and young folk and my family. But for me, I want to flip the order in this town. I think for too long, politics in New Orleans has been politics, business, and people are last. As I look at it, and I think that social order is wrong, I want it to be people, business, and politics as a supporting entity. I think too often we make the politicians our stars, not the people who do the work to make sure that everybody else is our stars. So if, God willing, when I make that decision to be mayor, the first thing I would do, the other thing that I want to do is I've won a lot of awards working with young people. I won the Philadelphia Award for mentoring young men who come from communities like I come from, that were left out. And I never forget the one young man, Meredith, I won the national award for. He was a 0.40 GPA. When we finished, he graduated number 7th in his class. But too many people look at young black brothers and sisters, it has nothing to do with their intellect. It's their expectations from society. So I want to empower young folk who come from where I come from and come from communities. They're not part of the power elite. They're not part of the political elite caste system, but they matter. I want to focus a lens on them. When you survive this town, you got skills. New Orleans ain't no joke for young brothers and sisters. You've survived New Orleans, you're supposed to have a place at the table. Right now they don't.
All right. Mr. Thomas.
I want to ask, how much has acting helped you being a politician?
Oh man, let me bring you back to a funny story. When Anthony started Anthony Bean Theater, and I was in high school with Anthony, right? Anthony used to put on the plays all the time, him and my cousin Jerome, and a bunch of folk. And I, you know, as an athlete, I mean, sports paid for my education. But as an athlete, I would go just to support them. So they'd be in the gym, there'd be halftimes, there'd be skits, you know, little plays. And when I got on the city council, Anthony called me when he said, I'm coming back home, bruh. I want to start acting school and theater, train young folk, you know, because New Orleans is booming with film industry. And Anthony was like, we need to start preparing our kids, whether they engineering, whether they sound, whether they on stage. He said, I want you to come, you know, do a show with me. And I was like, man, I don't do no acting, bro. I said, and so Anthony said, you're in politics, that's all y'all do. He said, now I just want to teach you how to act. So that was the Anthonyism. He got me on stage, and the crazy thing about it is since then, I've done a numerous amount of plays, movies. I actually produced 3 shows. I actually gave up a production with Dick Wolf's team when I got elected, but there are a couple shows that air on Netflix and on TV that I was actually one of the co-producers. So I went from not wanting to act and him telling me that's all politicians do, not learn how to act the right way, to actually be involved in the film industry, and knowing that I recommend that all young people get involved in the arts, drama, or some part of acting. It develops a skill in you that becomes innate, right? When other kids, you look around and they don't feel like they're left out, y'all know you belong.
Right.
You know, and you've gone through that shot. Because the first time I gave a speech, everything came out of my mouth but words. But now, I can do a monologue. I can host a flow like nobody you don't know, from the back of the house to the beginning of the door. You know, never standing still. Never standing still. Always on the go, because I always knew that God, for us, he won't mow. So, thanks to Anthony.
Mr. Thomas,
Yeah.
how do you plan to reduce crime in the community?
Well, crime is already being reduced right now. And politicians and law enforcement people are taking credit for it. So for the first time in 7 to 10 years, New Orleans East has some of the lowest crime stats in the city, right? And they've unfortunately stereotyped and branded that community undeservingly. But it wasn't just about me. But one of the things we did was neighborhood walks, community walks, giving more money to recreation, supporting alternative opportunities for kids, and talking to kids. I don't have no problem, any problem for the proper people. I don't have any problem walking up on a corner talking to young brothers and sisters. None. And I'll never forget a young partner of mine, black man, brother Hakim. So we would go walk on the corners and talk to young folk about putting the guns down, putting the drugs down. And I'll never forget the black man told me one day, he said, bro, we can talk to them about more than that. We can talk to them about what's happening with life. Don't take for granted just because they're standing on the corner or they seem to be not doing nothing that they don't pay attention to life. So we developed that. So we started talking to them about life, about politics, about policy, about, you know, when you leave the corner, when you put that thing down, you know, what you want to do and how to do it. So it was a combination of crime reduction is always going to be a combination of community, young folk buying in, and strengthening black families.
Now, I know the history you have with doing plays, and specifically August Wilson with ABCT.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what would you say your favorite play is from August Wilson?
Well, ain't no doubt, man. 2 Trains Running, where I played Wolf. I was Wolf. I was a hustler, posted up in the diner, running the numbers, always getting thrown out, arguing with Hambone. I want my ham, right? That has been a signature role for me. I like playing roles that folk kind of think won't fit, you know, and I've watched some of the great actors, and y'all will know that too, right? Somebody will type you for the pretty girl role, right? Or for the sophisticated role, and you'll be like, nah, I'm gonna play that grimy one. Yeah, and so when Anthony did that for me, I was like, yeah, you know, back to the lower 9, you know? Yeah, that's my favorite role.
OT, who's this little guy next to you?
That's my son. That's Lil Lila. Give it up, man. Give it up. That's my greatest gift. You know, I buried my oldest son, so I didn't think God would gift me again, but He did. He did, right? That's Lil Lila. Yeah.
For my question, I wanted to ask you, is there a common challenge that you found in like your acting career and your politician career, and how have you combated it?
Man, that is a great question. And Anthony will understand it. Some of you will too. Staying on script, right? Knowing what the mission is. You know, understanding the monologue, the message in the play. And in politics, the message in the play ought to be outcomes from our community. So a lot of times somebody comes in with a whole new piece, you know, a line that ain't in the script, a policy that don't go with the mission. So staying on script, understanding how it applies to our community, that's a challenge. But thank God I'm conscious of it. Great question, great question.
What quotes or like aspirations do you tell yourself often that keeps you going?
I'm reminded of the challenge my parents gave me about not forgetting where you come from, not letting my frustration overcome my senses, and you know, I can get my feelings sometimes, and remembering that I'm not the most important thing, and my feelings are not most important. It's what we produce for our community. I think that's one of the toughest jobs of being a leader, is you can begin to think it's about you. You know, because in this town, people kiss politicians' ass all the time, like, because they want something from them, or that's somebody that they benefit from, when really our job is to make sure that we're supporting our community.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So how do you mentally prepare yourself for going into a room, speaking, or preparing yourself for a role, or
Great
going
question.
speaking as a politician, knowing there's people out there that sometimes doesn't agree with the decisions that you make, and then there's the
Yeah.
people that do. How do you mentally prepare yourself for that?
Well, I've been legislator of the year a few times. I've won a lot of awards. I'm a beast.
Yeah.
I'm a beast as a legislator and a historian. So I know the facts.
Right.
So when you come at me with something, I'm gonna fact check you. I'm gonna Google the computer, right?
Let's pause for commercial break. Don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You support ABCT program because you like what we're doing over here. And as you can see, we want to keep this thing going. They're enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. ABCT. Right? ABCT! ABCT!
Welcome back to What's Going On. I'm your host, Nico. Let's get right back into it.
Welcome back to What's Going On. We're here with the politician, the actor, the man, Oliver Thomas.
Mr. Thomas, I heard that you went on vacation, which means you get time. How do you think that would affect your run for mayor, and do you think the people will forgive you?
Well, if I run for mayor, it's already out there. I ran for an office. After that, I won 41 out of 49 precincts. You know, those of you who are without sin, cast the first stone. But if you're living in a glass house, don't throw no stone. Judge not, lest ye be judged. I think it's made me better. I like, first of all, nothing against people with pretty lives, who've never made a mistake, you know, who've grown up with a silver spoon, you know, who the American dream, they have all they want, but that's not most of us. I like to line up with people who know how to get up and when they've been knocked down, folk who've made a mistake and overcome it, people who are the product of prayers to people they'll never think. That's my life. I'm good. Good. You know what I didn't tell y'all, one of the most successful plays in the history of the city, Anthony wrote with my input. It was about my life, right? And sold out 13 straight nights, right? I don't think any other show has done that, history of the city. But during rehearsals, and Anthony can be something else when you're rehearsing. So think about it, right? I'm just coming from the joint, right? I'm celebrating my freedom. I let him talk me into putting my life on stage. I got New York Times coverage, right? I got all these people coming from all over the world to see it. So we're in the middle of writing my piece, right? So I ought to know my piece, right? So I'm writing in rehearsal, and not too long, we're about to go stage, go live, and Anthony's threatening to cancel the show. And he looks at me and he says, say, bruh, if you can't play you, maybe we can get somebody to play you. That's some foul shit. I ain't never forgot that, bruh. He says, if you can't play you, then maybe we can get somebody to, true story, then maybe we can get somebody to play you. And I was serious. Yeah. I wanted to whip his you know what, right? So, but what that did for me, though, I was like, well, damn, no, I don't want nobody else to play me, you know? I want to use my life to help folk. And then learning monologues and scripts. I used to try to learn the whole monologue. And Harold Evans taught me something, and y'all remember this. If you understand the mission of the monologue, right, you understand the pitch line from the actor in front of you, how you start, the meat of it, what you're trying to deliver, and the line you want to pitch to the next actor. But if you wreck your brain trying to figure that whole monologue, what you want to deliver, you're putting pressure on yourself. So I learned that. And then the other thing was help me in my speeches. Like, I'm a beast, right? I did 7 graduations and commencement exercises in 1 year, right? I do a couple things. I ask God to fill my heart and bless my tongue. So whatever comes out is appropriate. And I am always nervous as hell. People think I'm not nervous because I've gotten pretty good at it. I will pick someone in the audience that I can vibe with their spirit and make like I'm talking to them.
So, Mr. Thomas, I heard that you have some beef going on with somebody on the city council. I would just like to know what that's about.
You know, political people get in. Political people get in their feelings sometimes. I'm not proud of it. It was a difficult time for me. I had just lost my mother. And I was sensitive to the surroundings. And someone said something, you know, that brought me back to where I come from, right? And, you know, I asked people to forgive me for that, but at that time, I was in that moment, right? I'm a human being. You know, you said something disrespectful, I dealt with it. Like it was given to me. We moved beyond that. The person that I got into that beef with, I enjoy working with him now. Black beef should only be for the moment, right? And especially for young folk, right? We can't afford to have permanent fights and eternal fights amongst us in our community. That's what they expect, and that's what they want. So for me, I don't mind apologizing. I don't mind admitting when I'm wrong. And especially for black men and black boys, man, black beef, the end of it, it's never been good for us. You know, so no, we all right now.
I see your son here with the suit and tie on. He looks pretty used to this type of stuff. How much do you value professionalism in our youth?
Yeah, I'm learning to value it more. I think society has tried to 2-all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed, bun us. They've tried to program us, but they've taken away our versatility. And well, I'm just keeping it real. Well, why are you keeping it real with some phony people? I'm just keeping it 100. Well, the people around you, 35, they ain't nowhere near 100. You know, so we bought into these stereotypes where I don't dress like that. No, we cool, we good enough to dress. I like my Dickies and my tees, you know, with my cowhide belt. I don't sag, but 1.5 inches where you can see the underwear. match the, you know, match the under.
Part of the fit.
You know, yeah. I want you to know that. I want you to know that. But, you know, with my Timbs, right? But I also can suit it up with the best of them. So, you know, they get us to lock into these stereotypes. Like, no, we can do it all. For real.
How do you deal with the hate of being a pillar of the community?
I don't. I'm not saying it's not hurtful at times. A lot of times it's hurtful to the people who care about you more than anything. You gotta remember this, right? Some people, all they got is politics. All they have is the office they're in. All they have is their political brokers and their political team. It's what makes them. I understand people's frustration because I grew up in an environment that wasn't fair. But what I don't understand is when people are personal with people that they don't know, you know. I'll never forget my brother, Nardi. My brother nickname was Nardi, and then Ronaldo. Before he died, I'll never forget, he was a real dude. He told my dad that he wished he could apologize to everybody he ever hurt. And that's where I am. So I ain't got no time for haters or beef. Because usually the people who don't like you, they really can't tell you why. They really can't tell you why. But that's what I'm hoping young people get away from. Social media has given lend to people hiding behind layers to be something that they're not. When you can develop something inside of your gut, right, and inside of your soul, that means that you can master you. Just because you're playing somebody else, man, you're in complete control of who you are.
That's so true.
Just to be able to deliver. It's special people. It's like you're writing a piece, right? You might be writing a piece about somebody else or something totally different from your life, right? But you got to manifest it inside. Most people never get in touch with who they are inside. They're so superficial, or they've been so programmed on the outside that they don't even know who they are. So that's what it's done for me.
To bring it back to fatherhood, you spoke about losing your oldest son. Well, when you lose a person, you know, you go through a traumatic, it's real hard. But how have you coped for the better as a councilman, as an actor, as a person, as a human being, and a father for your youngest son and family?
Yeah, I've gotten, and as a black man, we didn't believe in therapy. I had to go get therapy because I thought I could deal with it, right? It cost me a lot initially. I was angry because I said, God, I mean, I've had kids come live with me and my family before, adopted kids, right, that are mine. And so for me, why would God take my son? So there was a sense of bitterness, right? But once I got help and I was healed, I started mentoring other young brothers and sisters. So I found that, you know, God said in Proverbs that train up a child in the way that they should go. He said a child. He didn't say your child. so they're all our children. So the therapy for me came from knowing that I could have relationships with other kids who may not have the benefit of having somebody like me.
How are you so cool?
Huh?
How are you so cool?
Because I done messed up enough to get it right sometimes.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I just wanted to ask, what do you think is contributing to the dip in crime that we're seeing, particularly in the East?
A lot of it has to do with some of the stuff we've done. People like Cesspool 5, Phil Brock, some of the outreach to walking. We got walking groups where over a year or so ago, we started walking the community. Too many people are afraid to get out their house and get out their offices and go in the community and manifest peace. I believe that there's a prayer, an energy, a spirituality that if enough people give out, it'll manifest itself into reality. The question in this town is that how do we make it sustainable? You know, so what I want to see now is that while it's gone down, while 71% dip in juvenile crime, then now it's time to invest in juvenile. 60%, 41% drop in murder and violent crime, now it's time to invest in black people. Because if you don't, guess what's going to happen? It's going to pop off again. It's going to pop off again.
Well, we want to thank you for sharing your story and providing information on today's topic.
It's our hope that the conversations we're having, information we're providing will help some teen, somewhere, somehow, today. Now, thanks for watching, and always, keep your head up!
What if it's too hard?
I'm gonna push through!
What if it's too rough?
I'm gonna push through!
What if it's too tough?
I'm gonna push through!
What if you're just too young?
That's not true!
What if you're not good enough?
That's not true!
Why? Because
I do anything I put my mind to!
I believe in you.
Chin up!
Believe in yourself.
Head high!
Tell me why.
We can do anything we put our mind to!
Who are you?
A-B-C-T! A-B-C-T! A-B-C-T-T! Woo!
ABCT Performing Arts Summer Program is more than a camp. It's culture. A 6-week summer performing arts camp for kids ages 7 to 17 that will teach your child about theater, acting, and TV production. Get your kid involved with the award-winning Anthony Bean Community Theater this summer. Camp begins June 6th through July 15th. For enrollment information, call 862-PLAY. That's 862-7529 or go to anthonybeantheater.com.